What's up, guys? Greg here, and you are tuned into the May 2023 edition of The Dot, the show where we go over all the best new music of the month. Very excited to propel us into the summer of 2023. As we've talked about in years past, music really starts to ramp up as we get towards the summer in the end of April, May, and as we head into June. We see a lot of very notable releases, and this year is no different as we have a jam-packed episode this month of artists you may have overlooked as all this great new music comes out. We're going to feature double-digit artists on this episode, and over half of them called in, so we have a busy episode this month. I will also talk about some of the notable releases and some of the music news. Let's get this episode kicked off. Let's go right to a song before I get to music news this month, and we're going to start off with the band Champs, and they released their third album this past month, and I've had my eye on these guys for a number of years. They released their debut album back in 2015, and they're made up of brothers Michael and David, and they've consistently released really good music. I can absolutely say that about this band, and that's why I'm so excited to feature them on this episode. They're a British duo. They're from the Isle of Wright out there in England, and they had a write-up in Apple Music, or their bio, I should say, in Apple Music says that Champs straddle the line between the 60s psychedelic music of the Beatles and the angular indie rock of contemporary acts like Hot Chip. And as much as I hate comparing contemporary bands to the Beatles, because I feel like it gets overplayed, you can actually hear it in Champs. I will give them credit for that because they have a lot of variety in their music, again, dating back to their debut back in 2015. So let's get to it, man. Let's go to the music, and when we come back, we'll touch on some of the notable news over this past month. But right now, we're going to listen to Champs' song, Rosie, Rosie.
Rosie, Rosie, she loves me better, like the night loves me better than you. Loves to love you in black, black leather, loves to love you in Prussian blue. Rosie, Rosie, she loves me better, every night loves me better than you. Taste the velvet and touch her leather, take me outside.
There with Rosie, Rosie off their new album, Ride the Morning Grass. And like I said, let's get into some music news here this past month in May 2023. One of the biggest things that stands out is the Taylor Swift tour. And I think it sticks out because it just came through Philadelphia. And you don't really realize how massive this tour is until it comes through your city. Gotta give credit where credit's due. Shout out to Taylor Swift. That is abnormal for a musical artist to be able to shut down an entire city like that. I think another notable thing is Ed Sheeran winning the Thinking Out Loud case. Essentially, he was on a copyright case because his song sounded like another song. And I think it was really good that he won this because we're at the point of music where so much music and so many songs have come out at this point that you can't really sue someone for a song sounding or having chords similar to another song. It's just, it's gonna happen because of the mass production of music these days. So it was really important that he won that, because if an artist is able to get sued because your song kind of sounds like another song, that would have put us into a very dangerous situation. Miley Cyrus, with her single Flowers that came out in the beginning of this year, is the fastest song ever to reach 1 billion streams on streaming services. So good for her. I said at the top of the episode, a lot of great new music came out this past month, as always in May. May is a really hot month for new music, as everyone wants to get their album and their new music out prior to the summer months of June, July, and August. But I got a whole long list of artists that release really great music. We'll start here with The National, who put out their album this past month called First Two Pages of Frankenstein. The National, I think, is one of those bands that people like Taylor Swift, Phoebe Bridgers, Lucy Dacus, Julian Baker. The National have become this very influential band for a lot of very popular female artists, and I think they deserve the recognition for that. And don't take my word for it, because Taylor Swift was featured on this new album from The National. Phoebe Bridgers has songs with Matt from The National. Quality stuff, yet again, one of the best bands out there these days. Billy Woods and Kenny Siegel released one of the best albums of the year. I was very impressed with what they came out with. Dave Matthews Band released a new album. LPGOB, one of the better electronic producers out there right now, and I think she's a little underrated. She doesn't get the credit that she deserves. Released a really good album. Subtract is awesome, and he has a lot of songs out there with Sampha. On his new album, he featured Sampha, and I think Subtract is one of those producers that is at the top of the game. He's as intricate as you're going to get when it comes to a live DJ, a live producer. Highly recommend seeing him on his tour that he's on right now. Leon Bridges released a deluxe version of Good Thing with a couple new songs. IDK, Ed Sheeran, DC the Don, Armani White. Armani White is the guy who released the Billie Eilish song last year, and Armani White came through with a good album. After hearing the Billie Eilish song, I was like, I don't really know who he is, but he has a hit, and good for him. But no, he's more than a one-hit wonder. Definitely recommend you guys checking out that new Armani White album. And there was another Flume League, Rips from the Past, which was really fun to listen to. Deb Never, who I'm a big fan of, released a new album. Indigo de Souza, who we have featured on this podcast in the past, released a really great new album. Joyola Dukin, Jack Harlow, Jesse Ware. And I have to mention the Kate album. Amine and Kate Renata came together. That album just came out. Listened to it one time, really liked it, but I have to listen to it a few more times before creating an opinion on it. But another one that came out this past month. So a lot of really great new albums here in May. Let's get back to some music you may have overlooked, and I'm really happy not only to feature this artist, but that this artist called in to give us an introduction to her new song. This is Chloe Gallardo, who released her new album, and we're going to check out a song, There Will Be Blood. I really, really love this song. Definitely stood out from all the new music I listened to this past month, but let's throw it over to Chloe to introduce this new track.
Hi, this is Chloe Gallardo. Thank you for having me on the dot. You're about to listen to my song, There Will Be Blood. It's off of my debut album called Defamator. And Defamator touches on a lot of different stages of grief. And There Will Be Blood touches on the stage where you're kind of feeling sorry for yourself. You feel like everything is your fault, specifically when you lose somebody or something important to you, and you can't help but blame yourself, even if there wasn't anything that you could actually do to prevent it from happening. It's not the happiest song, but I do feel like it's a bit relatable, and I hope you enjoy it.
I don't like who I've become. I feel pretty when I'm done. How come everybody's dancing alone? Takes a sec to call me back. This feels like a heart attack. Everybody knows I
love doing this podcast is when we start to get rolling with the new artist every month. As you could hear, the talented sound of Chloe Gallardo with her song There Will Be Blood. Such a touching track. I think that's one of those songs that comes across and you listen to it and you're like, oh, this is cool. And then you listen to it again, you're like, oh shit. And kind of the impact of the track starts to wash over you after you hear it a few more times and start to really listen to what that track is about. Again, a very beautiful song from Chloe Gallardo. Definitely recommend listening to her debut album that came out this past month. And like I said, I love when the episode gets rolling, so let's keep it rolling. We're going to go over to an artist from New York. This is Devansh, who released his LP To Feel Free this past month. So happy I came across this guy, another criminally underrated artist. I'm really excited because I think a lot of people are going to like his sound. He has that psychedelic sound that a lot of people are gravitating towards these days. And Devansh actually played trumpet for bands before releasing his solo stuff back in 2022. And we are so lucky to be blessed with the sound of Devansh, as you're going to hear right here with his song In Your Nature. And I'll throw it over to Devansh to introduce this new track.
Hey, this is Devansh. Thanks so much for having me on the dot. You're about to listen to my track called In Your Nature. Unlike a lot of the tracks, this one doesn't really have that much of a deeper meaning behind it. I kind of had some anger to get out post-breakup. And I had just moved to London in the middle of lockdown, September 2020. And post-breakup, I was sitting at the keyboard and just came up with the bass line, which kind of, defines the track. And you hear it all the way through. And it kind of gets that heavier psychedelic sound, and it reflects on some of the fractures in that past relationship and the clarity I felt afterwards. And specifically on how, deceitfulness is perhaps something that could be inherent in someone, and something that one can't change, but what I strived to change and tried to change when I thought me and her were meant to be. So that's the background of the track. It features some big bass, some psychedelic guitars, keys and synths, and a nice bass solo at the end. Anyway, I hope you dig it, and thanks for having me.
You had nowhere to be but be free. But you like 'cause it's in your nature. If one chance to see, I was hoping we could try it. But we fight like it's in your nature. Parts of your nature remain to me. I thought your nature was plain to see. Can't you see what you've done to me? Oh my dear, don't you see that we're meant to be? On and on, can't you see what you've done to me? Oh my dear, don't you see that we're meant to be? I was in too deep, and you were too far gone. All I got is deep in your nature. Your soul sees you real, but you never picture. To rewrite is part of nature.
Hello everyone, this is Adrian from Frank Follows, and thanks for having us on the Dot Podcast. The featured song from us is a track called Like You from our first album we recently put out, and it's about the people around us, in particular the ones whose lives get a little bit complicated at times, when things you know or thought you knew kind of start slipping through your fingers. But at the same time, it's a sort of a statement about letting go and moving forward from past experiences with a special someone in the middle of it. Thanks again. Hope you enjoy the song.
You took a while to figure out, teary-eyed and broken. It took some time to speak your mind and to let
Devansh right into Frank Follows with their song Like You, which was one of the singles off their album that came out this past month called Flight Thoughts, and great band. It was actually one of the more surprising albums I came across this past month from Frank Follows, just because I never heard of him before this, and that entire album was really good. And there's a nice write-up from Morgan Wells Harding from Melodic Mag, and in that write-up about Frank Follows, it says that no standalone genre can categorize Frank Follows as a whole, and the band has previously said listeners can make their own definition of the sound they hear based off their personal music background. They are the epitome of a do-it-yourself band, handwritten, performed, recorded, and mixed their own album themselves under the Flack record label. So that puts in perspective the hard work that Frank Follows put into this beautiful project that they released for us this past month. Like You is a really great song, but again, that entire album is awesome. It's their only album on streaming services right now. They are a trio from Stockholm, so I highly encourage you guys to check them out. So, like I said in the top of the episode, there's a lot of artists I want to feature here in the May 2023 edition of The Dot. Let's fly right over to an artist that I love. This is Longbeard, and it broke my heart because Longbeard just came to Philadelphia, played at Johnny Brenda's a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, I had a wedding, so I wasn't able to make the show, but I'm a big fan of Longbeard. She just released a song with Ryan Galloway called Posters, and we're going to check that out right now. Enjoy.
So
Others there from Longbeard and Ryan Galloway came out this past month. Really cool song. And like I said, Longbeard, I've been a fan of her for a number of years now, since her album back in 2019 called Means to Me. She had a song on there. It was a good album all the way through, but she had a song on there called Snow Globe that I couldn't get enough of. Probably one of my more listened to songs over the years. So really great to feature her and Ryan Galloway on the podcast this month. Let's go to an artist who wrote a song about having a little bit of trouble with deodorant. And you know, we've all been there. And this is Eyes of Others. And I really appreciate the call in that we're going to get to here. And Eyes of Others released the self-titled full-length debut album this past month. And on Eyes of Others YouTube page, it says that it's post-pub couldn't get into the club music. And we're going to check out the song Once, Twice, Thrice off that new album. And I'm going to throw it over to Eyes of Others to introduce us to their new track.
Hi, this is Eyes of Others, and thanks for having us on the dot. This track is called Once, Twice, Thrice, and I guess it's about a series of skirmishes I had with a cheap and nasty deodorant. Not once, not twice, but thrice. I thought it smelled good, but it didn't, and I never learned, and I lost loves over it. So Once, Twice, Thrice it's really just a tale of love's contempt for itself. I hope you enjoy it.
I thought that I was better up until I met her with my new vice. Go once and twice and thrice.
Others with Once, Twice, Thrice. Love the little synth in the background throughout that whole song. That little melody is something that sticks in your head, and it's one of the big reasons why I've been playing that song so much this month. Thank you so much to Eyes of Others for calling in. Let's go to the Danish electro-industrial duo. They also are the best named band on the dot so far this year. This is Chair No Good for Back. And like I said, they're a Danish duo, and Spotify said they're made up of experimental jazz drummer Frederick Houch and classically influenced saxophonist Rasmus Christian Peterson. And the Spotify bio, I just want to dive a little bit further into it because I think they really put it in perspective here. The Spotify bio goes on to say, ignorant of most genre rules and conventions within the electronic scene, their approach is one of playful exploration and intuitive guidance, applying everything from analog synths and sampling Houch's drum sets to musique concrete strategies and field recordings. So that's a really fancy way to say that they're a very versatile and genre bending duo here. And we are going to check out the song called Desert Heart. And I'm going to throw it over to the duo to introduce this new track.
Hey, this is Frederick from Chair No Good for Back. Thanks for having us on the dot. Desert Heart is a message of hope, a gentle reminder to find a place of calm when going through times of trouble. And try to keep moving, even if it's just a little bit, one beat at a time. The song emerged a late evening when I was noodling around on an acoustic guitar. The words and melody came to me very intuitively and from the emotional space which I was in at the time. In terms of the musical arrangement, it started with me playing the guitar, and then I added some whiskers on the snare drum and an electronic kick. And then Rasmus, the other half of Tjerno Gutverberg, who is a brilliant saxophone player, among other things, he added the saxophone arrangement and did some free jazz style saxophone solo-ish kind of vibe. And in the end we did the electric guitar to like give it sort of a release in the end. Yeah, so I hope you enjoy.
The days are long, the tide is strong, the wind is hard, my heart goes on. The days are long, the tide is strong, the wind is hard, my heart goes on.
How about the saxophone in that song from Tjerno Gutverberg called Desert Heart off their new album? Really great track. Great album all around from the Danish duo. Another month, same old stuff. We're coming up on 30 minutes. I still have 4 songs to feature, so I'm going to start to really pick things up to respect your time here. This next band called Great Gable. They're a 4-piece from Perth, Australia. Alex, Matt, Chris, and Caleb. They released an EP on May 19th for us called Read the Room. We're going to check out a song off that called So Cool. Great Gables actually has a Wikipedia page, which isn't very common with the artists that I feature on this podcast. And on that page, it says that their music consists primarily of alt and indie rock with the occasional reggae and blues influences. We're going to check out their new song, So Cool, and then we are going to go right into the call-in from Neve, Neev, who released her new album called Catherine this past month. We're going to check out her song called Seawall. So first, Great Gables song So Cool, and that's going to go right into Neve's new song Seawall. Enjoy.
Watch out. Oh, I feel so cool. You've been trying to break me down, but all I can remember is how to play the fool. The rumors all lie, took off overnight. It's hard to believe that we ever saw eye to eye.
G'day, this is Alex from Great Gable. Thanks for having me on the dot. Our song So Cool came together whilst we were on tour around Australia. We managed to sneak some studio time in between shows, and the tune was recorded in one day. I think the energy of the live shows gave us inspiration to write an upbeat and fun tune. Hope you enjoy. Cheers.
All I can remember is how to stay inside. The room is justified, take it as you like. Blinded by headlights, burning and bright. I feel so cool.
This is Neve. Thanks so much for having me on the Dot podcast. You're about to hear a song of mine called Seawall. This is the first track off of my debut album that's out now called Catherine. Seawall explores feelings of burnout, the effects of fatigue, and what the consequences are when you refuse to check in on yourself or when you put everything ahead of your well-being. I was initially inspired to write Seawall after watching a play of the same name starring Andrew Scott. His character constantly refers to a hole in their stomach throughout the play. It's almost flippant and it's kind of almost a joke. I like this idea and I wanted to integrate it into lyrics. I like the idea of referring to it throughout a song. In Seawall, the song, that hole comes to represent those feelings of burnout and sort of discusses the idea that there's a part missing if you refuse to take care of yourself or rest. I hope you like it.
I don't find it easy to look on the bright side. I'm tired and wheezing, been running for miles, and I know, that there's a hole. Take no notice, take no Well, I've been roaming around, gravity down, energy low. What a way to exist, but you've been polite, ignoring this hole. He said slow down and I said no. He said don't burn both ends of the candle. I can't hide but I can run. The earth will pull me back at once, and I will hit the seawall. If I were a heartbeat, somewhere heavy to lean, this uneven feeling wouldn't terrify me as much as it does. But I know that there's a hole. Take no notice, take no Well, I've been roaming around, gravity down, energy low. What a way to exist, but I might break down if I don't just go. He said slow down and I said no. He said don't burn both ends.
Neve there with her new track Seawall off the album Catherine, which was her debut album that was released at the very end of April, on April 28th. And Neve is from Glasgow. She's an indie folk artist. A lot of publications have some good things to say about Neve, and I'm right there with them. BBC says that she has such a delicate and well-crafted sound. You can really feel the purity and emotion in her music, and I completely agree. So happy to feature Neve on the podcast, and so happy she called in to introduce that new track. Two more songs for you guys here. We are going to go over to Pentire, who released their EP Now in a Minute on May 5th. We're going to check out the song Spinning off of that EP. This is a very polished new band. No album yet. It's interesting, usually on this podcast when I'm featuring these newer bands, younger bands, when you go to like artists similar to or sound like on Spotify or Apple Music, it's a lot of other newer bands not a lot of people might be familiar with. But with Pentire, if you go to Apple Music, similar artists, it's Arctic Monkeys, Sam Fenders. I'll throw one in that's not listed. I think they sound a little bit like Catfish and The Bottlemen. Don't love comparing artists. I think everyone has a unique thing they bring to the table, but I will say Pentire is a very polished young band. There's a bright future for these guys. Like I said, no album yet, and on their Spotify bio, it does say that Pentire is an indie band who make pop songs for the post-jangle generation through the smiles and sweat of the mosh pit. So with that being said, let's check out their new song. This is Pentire with their new track Spinning off their EP that was released on May 5th called Now in a Minute.
My head is spinning in circles, honey, I don't mean to be keeping you awake. It's just tonight I need a light. My head is spinning in circles, honey, I don't mean to keep calling so late. It's just tonight I need you, my lifeline. And she knows how to make me feel like I'm 20 foot So tell me all of your secrets, honey, call me up. It's getting late, and I've had enough. For my old man wrote you up. And I just don't believe that this is all for nothing. But the second that I leave is the second that you love me back. Bring me to my knees. And oh, she knows she can make me fall back at the sound of you calling me home. You never know until you're old. What makes you never know.
Fantastic track there from the boys of Pentire with their new song Spinning. And that's going to bring us to the very end of the podcast. This episode, we listened to Champs, Chloe Gallardo, Devansh, Frank Follows, Longbeard and Ryan Galloway, Eyes of Others, Great Gable, Neve. We just heard Pentire, and we're going to get played out today by Clay, who is a fantastic artist, beautiful, soulful voice from Clay, all caps CLAY. She released Holy Silence for the Spring, the demos on May 5th. We're going to get played out by a song off of that EP called Poison. Again, it is a demo. And Clay, really crazy upbringing. She's influenced by Erykah Badu, Paul Simon, Lauryn Hill. She intertwines her music with social justice, which is great. Always love seeing that. But it's a really great track and very happy to get played out this month by Clay. Thank you so much for listening yet again. Next month, I think I'm going to do a quick rundown of my favorite albums of the year, because after June we'll be halfway through 2023. Do everything you can to support these artists. Go see their shows when they come to your areas, buy their merch, do everything you can to keep them in business so they can keep making great music for us. And always remember,
it only happens once a month, so you must be on the dot.
I know your love is no good, it's no good for my body or soul. And so as the tide on the shore, you ask and I always give more. I'm just a little honeybee, keep going back to the same old flower. But there's no pollen in your touch, no sweetness, careless and cruel. Your love is poison.